going on, everybody? It's Garrett Johnson here, back with another week on the reel down. Jimmy's not going to be with us here tonight. It's just going to be running the show. So hopefully it goes well. No hiccups this time. We'll see how it goes. Uh, but this week we got the first and second place winners from the Hobie BOS event on Santee Cooper Lakes. It looks like we had quite a showdown down there. I mean, tons of big fish caught. Couple guys over 100-inch limits, but it was very feast or famine. It seemed like there's a lot of people that seem to struggle. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and start bringing these guys on. So back for another week with this, and following up his national kayak series event win with a second place uh, finish on the BOS is Rus Snyders.
How's it going, guys?
Going on, man?
Oh, guys, how's it going, Jared? Jared, I know.
Yeah,
No, Ryan's
back
coming.
back
Chad's
for
coming
another
on as
week.
well. Yeah,
Yeah,
back again, man. It's been a lot of tournaments this year and a lot of traveling,
yeah,
but
you're
things
on you're on
are
quite a heater right now. I mean,
it's going good, man. It's my favorite time of year to do tournaments. I love the pre-spawn and the spawn, and things been working out well lately. That's for sure.
yeah, well, you can say that again. It's definitely. I think we all aspire to kind of have that kind of, I don't know, success continually that you have. So you're definitely like an idol in our community right now.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's hard to figure out how to handle the attention and stuff like that. But I'm trying to do my best to be a good role model and a positive, positive
Well, we
person.
think you're
So
doing a good job, so keep it up, man.
thank you.
But I'll go ahead and bring on our first place winner for this event, uh, Mr. Chad Walden. What's going on, Chad?
Hey, buddy. I appreciate you having me here tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Uh,
I'm glad you can make it on with us,
I,
both
I'm
of you
new to all
guys.
this. Russ is going to have to make sure I'm staying in check over here, being a rookie at all this. He's done it a bunch, and
Hey, we got a seasoned
hopefully,
veteran over here.
yeah, that's right. Hopefully, I don't act to fool too much and have too much fun, and y'all get sick. Hopefully, y'all get sick of seeing me. I'd like y'all to get sick of seeing me if I can not be the one hit wonder. So
I'm sure we'll see
We
you back
crushed it on
again.
this one, man. We crushed
I
it.
appreciate.
You
It.
definitely
Yeah.
earned it.
Yeah, it was cool being up there on stage with Russ and I mean with you and battling it out to say that I went toe to toe with Russ and that was two events. He won the other one, the Queen City event, and I got second place on it, and so
The Queen City,
it,
that one was a four
about
fish event. Is that right?
four
Yeah,
fish limit. Yeah, I think you had a 22 and a half for your
yeah,
big fish.
solid.
Yep,
Uh,
22 and a half for
Yeah,
my big fish. I had
and,
3 over 20. You had
tiebreak.
you had all 5 over 20, which was
Yeah, had
that's
all five.
incredible.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
say I've ever. I don't think. I can't say I've ever done that in a
Oh, really?
tournament. I don't think I've ever got 5 over 20. No, that's pretty awesome. That's always kind of the goal a lot of times going into the
yeah,
tournament, especially at a place like Santee Cooper.
Well, and that's the bad thing is I had no service, so I didn't think 103 was even. I thought it may have been top five. I didn't think it had a chance of winning with 103, maybe top
yeah,
10.
with the way
So,
that place was fishing, I would have I
yeah.
would have not felt safe either. But
No, the
If it was
week
the
of.
day before, if it was the day before when it was windy like that, I mean, some areas
Oh,
it would have been brutal, but there was also if you can get away in some of the more protected stuff, like when it was prefrontal with that storm coming in, I think it certain areas it would have made it even better. It might have
yeah,
taken 105, 106 that day
mhm.
before,
so let's
but
talk, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So if anybody else didn't realize it, the first day of the event ended up getting canceled due to weather and high winds.
mhm.
So it turned the 2-day event into a 1-day shootout when it definitely was a shootout. I mean,
Yeah, I can say, yeah. I wish I would have had 2 days to see what it really was about, but I can't change it. Just
Yeah, and
hey,
they
I
made the
won.
best
Ain't
decisions they
no point in
could
changing.
with
I
the.
made the best of the situation. So
yeah,
You did, man. You did. And like I said, it would have been great to fish out there both days, but you can't criticize at all AJ or Vinny for
no,
making the decisions that they had to make. And I think it was the right one given the information that we were given at the time. The storm did
yeah,
let up and it ended up, it's like, oh man, it was due. I think if they would have been able to see the future, they would have been like, all right, it's safe enough. But like I said, you can't predict the future or what's
Can't
going to
really
happen.
gamble when you got 187 people's lives.
Yeah, well, that man,
totally.
Seen the news, the weather that when it hit, it came through with all the storms that it was just wrecking those towns.
Mhm.
I mean, it was the same front essentially that came through with the tornadoes and stuff that hit Little Rock and all those other areas that
seeing
devastated
that, that's they did the right thing.
Some of the region. So I think they made the safe call, probably the best call, but I'm sure they're going to get criticism for it either way. But
I mean, I just gotta do it again, so prove that it wasn't just a fluke. I mean, just he won a one-day event.
I know. I said that too. I was like, man, this would have definitely been the one I should have fished. I mean, I could luck up and win a one day.
One-day event. Yeah, that's right. I mean, so it was.
What's the next event you'll be doing, Chad?
I'll be down there with you. 2 hours away. I start practicing next week. So
for Hartwell.
Hartwell,
awesome.
The Bassmaster event there. Yeah,
it's a pretty good possibility we'll see each other. So,
all right,
it should be a good one.
The
Carolinas are getting a ton of attention right now.
What I like to do, buddy.
I'm not going to be chasing around spotted bass all over the place with live scope. That's for sure.
Yep, that is true, buddy. That is true.
I have a live scope. I might practice a couple. Like if I get some extra time to practice, that'll probably be a good opportunity for me to learn a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did at Chick for the Bassmaster event there. I took the time there to kind of learn my live scope a little more because it's not often to get 4 or 5 days in a row to go mess with that kind of stuff.
And only certain lakes set up good for it. Obviously, Hartwell is going to be one where that's definitely going to be a key factor.
There's going to be some.
I think.
And that depends too on the weather, though. Like if it's too windy, it's going to be hard for them to start live scoping. Yeah,
that's true.
I tell you, Russ, perspective mode is going to be your friend. Everybody else is going to be forward facing, how you like to fish and how shallow I like to fish. Murray, I found him on gravel bottoms and that live scope. I didn't chase fish with the live scope. Like I don't generally catch a lot of fish because, on the live scope, I don't throw at the fish, but I put mine on perspective mode for Santee and Murray. And Murray, I was chasing gravel bottoms. And you can see gravel and rock really well in perspective mode. You see different types of bottoms. So that's what I chased, at Murray and got on a real good pattern because all I was looking for gravel and rock veins, and you can find them really good on that. So, so I can't believe you don't already have it. I've heard stories of you putting your depth, your transducer on the side of your kayak, shooting it outside.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I got the new mount for the Garmin mount for perspective, and the one I got it from Dugout. I shouldn't say it because I'm sponsored by Music City, man, but
the Fisher mount, is that the one you're talking about?
What was the
Fisher
one? Yeah, the Fisher mount. And so I got that up, and then I got the Garmin that works with perspective, where you can where you don't have to
move it around
everything to move it around. What I did, though, it seems to be working good. It has little teeth on it, so that it locks, so it kind of locks in place. But what I noticed is you can't you either like way up like this or down too much like this.
There almost needs to be like an in between tooth.
So I sanded off the teeth. And it actually seems like it's going to work really good like that. So I can kind of make those micro adjustments a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I'll let you know how it works. But
that makes sense. I thought about that the other day because I've been.
Just sand. I sanded it off a little too much. If I was to do it over, I just like half sand the teeth.
Yeah.
So the points aren't there. It's kind of flat.
Yeah. So you don't have to lock it.
Yeah, well, the problem is the bolt dead ends. You know what I mean? So when it dead ends, if it's all the way standard, it doesn't have enough friction. So it has just enough friction, but I'm like, I wish I just had a little sanded a little less off.
You're gonna have to put some kind of little tape or something in there.
A little rubber washer or something like that.
Yeah.
Would probably be good. But
well, man, we're already getting sidetracked here, but
we're talking about all kinds of stuff. But,
so I mean, did both of you guys get it? I talked to Chad a little bit, but You guys pre-fished for the event, and uh,
Russ, did you pre-fish
how did that go?
or did you go to history?
I can't think of the tournament now. I went to I did go to history. I pre-fished um 3 days, and first day I pre-fished somewhere that I've been before and caught a few good fish. I knew there was going to be some more boat pressure there though come the weekend, and there was going to be probably some kayaks in there too.
Yeah.
But I knew it was an area that with like post frontal conditions that could be good, and I felt like I had a chance. I caught I think 2 over 20 that day, but didn't get a lot of bites. So I'm like, all right, well, this has potential, but given all the pressure, like, yeah, it's not going to be as easy as it was today. Um, Second day, I fished with Cody and we explored some new water and did not have much success at all until like we went almost all day without a bite until 3 o'clock or 3:30, and then we started finally catching some. I think that was the area that Cody ended up fishing. Some of that was some of the water that Cody ended up fishing that we finally got to in the afternoon there. And then on Friday, I went back to where one of the places that I got second place last year. Last year, I fished two different areas, and I went back to where I went the first day last year and got a few bites. I basically shook everything off that I got bid on, and I except for one, I accidentally hooked. And it was a 21, and
Dang.
that was the only fish I got, but I shook off maybe 6 or 7 without really trying too hard. And I knew like it set up exactly like it did last year. Last year we had the water suck out and it screwed
Yeah.
that stuff up. I fished it on that first day, and I just like by the time of the end of the day came, that water was so low, like it just pulled all those fish out of there, and that's why I had to go to a different spot the second day. And this tournament, it was perfect. The water was coming up, and it was full. There was just setting up exactly the same. I already knew the area, and the thing about fishing area like cypress trees is there's all cypress trees aren't the same. Some
Yeah.
are gonna kind of it's like put like a point value on each one,
Yeah.
as far as just like where it's located, if it's more isolated, if it has some vegetation or grass around, or if it's the amount of shade or the all those things kind of play a
Mm.
factor. So I knowing, and it can get hard, especially when your fishing area just has so many of those cypress trees. You can get like turned around in there so easy. So
Yeah.
it really benefits you to really know, if you know the area well, especially being able to go back there that second time and know how stuff lays out and know what areas are going to be a little dirtier, what areas are going to be a little cleaner, what areas are going to have more sun exposure, which ones have more better grass around them, which ones are deeper. Sometimes you want them to fish more of the shallow trees, but knowing all those differences so you can kind of move around efficiently in an area
Yeah.
and know what decision, to try different things until you kind of figure out what's going on, and understanding how they move around there just plays a big part of,
Yeah.
of doing well when you're fishing those cypress tree lakes.
Well, I guess we didn't really talk about this, but do you mind it's describing a little bit how Santee Cooper the lakes set up? Because I don't know if a lot of our listeners are familiar with like
I'll
how.
let Chad, you're more familiar with me, so you answer
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so we'll drop back to the practice real quick because I practiced to hide from the wind. So I was setting up the lake to hide from the wind.
Okay.
Santee can get nasty in the wind, so I was watching the
Yeah.
wind all. So I fished, the side that the wind was coming from the whole
It's
week.
pretty much a lowland reservoir
Yeah,
typically.
yeah,
Like
yep,
fishes like
yep.
lowland, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
cypress trees and swamps. I mean, you can do anything there. You can go fish docks. I mean, a friend of mine I was talking to him, and he said you can win on that lake in 500 spots.
Yeah.
I mean, you really can if you can find them in so many different spots. Cypress trees, it's swamps. You got flats. I mean, you can fish just whatever you want. I think there was some people fishing, current, and some people fishing, still water. Some people fishing eelgrass. Some
Mm.
people fishing, just all the
All kinds of
vegetation,
different.
lily pads. Just so you would, if you did your research and rode around that lake and found what fits you. I think the people who found what fits them probably did the best.
Yeah.
So
Kind of fish
you
your
know,
own strengths.
Yeah, so I practiced each day a different day, and I don't really like to stick too many fish. I found on Monday I went down and practiced, and the wind was terrible. So I put in and it was blowing, and I said, no, I'm not. There's no way I can go right here.
Yeah.
So I moved and went somewhere else, and I fished in there, and I missed one on a swim jig. And it got me off surprise. My phone rang and I picked it up and answered, and it railed it, but it railed so much slack in my line, and there was no catching up to it.
Yeah.
Even with an 8-3 to 1 reel. So then the second day of practice, I practiced. You can go to Clearwater, so you can have black water, clear water, muddy water. You can, Then I went to Clearwater, and found 7 on beds, but I found them on Tuesday. And then I looking at the wind, I couldn't rely on any bedding fish because if the wind blows like it was supposed to blow on Saturday, it's going to blow. It's muddy up the water. You're not, I marked them. And because, the great thing about kayaks, I don't know if people know it, you turn your electronics off and you can go right over the beds. They won't move off of it. If you just ease across the beds, they won't move off of it. You just drop a pin right on top of them and, you go to your next one. And, I found 7 in a little pocket, but, I couldn't rely on bedding fish. That's one thing I didn't want to have to do.
It's always a risky move to try to rely on
Yeah,
betting
yeah.
fish. I mean,
Yeah,
it could pay off, but
especially in a kayak. I mean, I was standing on my seat. I was in a Hobie 360, and I was standing on my
yeah,
seat. Looking in the water. That's it's not easy to do. Luckily I'm only 5'7", so I'm not a big guy, so it's a little easier. So,
yeah. Well,
um,
I'm 6 foot, like 280, and I've stood in my seat and done that, and
yeah,
it does not feel comfortable. Like if
yeah,
the wind
yeah.
blows the wrong way, I'm going
That
in.
you're going in. So
Yeah.
Wednesday was the magical day. A buddy of mine come down from Charlotte Mooresville and fish with me, Mr. Jim, and he was late, so I sat still on the spot and checking it out, and I seen stuff on the graph and the perspective mode, and I threw a couple times, couldn't catch them. Then Mr. Larry pulls in and they come in. I mean, for some reason, I don't know if he pushed them or whatnot, and they were right in front of his boat. He wouldn't throw. Man, it was the coolest thing because he was so respectful. Like, because he asked me about we were going to go check this other area out, and he asked me if he'd go with us, and I said, come on. And so he was waiting for Jim to get there, and I said, Mr. Lake, throw. He throws out there and sticks a 23.5. And I was like, okay. I said, we're not throwing it. We're not throwing it anymore. So we left and we checked and we went over to somebody's spot, and we I caught 2 fish. I caught a 19 and a 22, and I left it. And that was on Wednesday. And I paddled 2 miles to another spot and checked it and shook off a couple fish, and then went 2 miles another direction and check it and trying to find some of the same areas, and checked it, and then we left. So Russ, I didn't stick your fish, buddy. I shook them off for you.
Thank you. I think
And sore mouth them all for
so
you.
we got out of there. And I was like, I need to check my, where Mr. Larry caught that 23.5. And I said, and Larry went and did his own thing. He went out and, and he was fishing some cypress trees, and he did really well. And he went back, and he didn't do well on Saturday, but he was on some good fish. I think they just moved when the water moved. When the water came up, they moved on him. And so when I came back to the spot where Mr. Larry caught that fish, I threw in there, and because what I did is I got on his line and I threw in and caught one, and I was like, I looked at Jim, I said, I need to know if that was a fluke. So I waited a few minutes, and moved around a little bit and threw again, another one. I think it was a 20, 21 and a 18 or something like that, and then left it. And then I have to go to sleep that night thinking I'm on winning fish and the whole week, and I'm not seasoned. So man, I'm not sleeping. I didn't sleep since after that night because
Getting nervous.
And then so I went. Yep. So I went Thursday and practiced, and went with my buddy Mike, Pastor Mike, and he's a hammer. He is a power fisherman, and he found them at his spot. But I went with him because he wanted to show me, because just in case it got canceled. He was wanting to show me, or if I needed to come in there for a second day, because he's a preacher, so he was gonna he would, so I'd know where they were. And he stuck a 5.7 that was completely drained of energy. I mean, it was skinny. You could tell the
Spawned
side
out.
the tail was going to spawn out. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know how many pounds they lose, but this fish had a big old head. And
Wow.
and then we went and checked another spot that kind of matched my spot I found on Wednesday, and I got into the stripers, and boy, I had fun. He said, "You going to sit here and catch them?" I said, "I ain't catching bass. I might as well have a good time." I thought stripers were 45 inches, man. It was a good time.
45-inch striper.
Yeah, dude, they were fun.
Jeez.
Yeah, 14-pound test. You know, it was fun.
It's like
but
30
Going year
pounds.
round
How many
everywhere.
pounds did you get it weighed on?
14. No, 14-pound test line.
Yeah. No, how many pounds is the fish? 48. That's
Oh,
like
I know.
maybe 30
I didn't
probably.
I didn't weigh those. I just threw them back in and got back out there because they were schooling in there, and I was having fun.
You think it was 30 pounder?
Do what? No. I didn't. No, they weren't that big. They were 25
40?
inches.
Oh, I thought you said 45 inches.
Yeah.
No,
It's
20,
like,
25.
Jesus
Did I
Christ.
say 25? No,
I know.
20,
I don't know.
25,
I'm not
25 to
listening
30.
listeners.
Yeah, 25 to 30. They were in that
Oh,
range.
okay. I thought
Okay.
you said
Yeah, no,
45 inches.
No, hell, that
a
might be a state record.
4-foot striper. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I saw one pre-fishing as I was coming back into the ramp. It was right on a mud line. I saw like a 30-pounder bust something off the surface. I threw a swim bait. I had a swim bait rig, and I threw in there like the second it happened. Or not the second, but like, within 10 seconds, and it didn't eat. I'm like, oh, here we go. But it never happened. They got some big ones in there.
I like catching fish, I mean, it's
Yeah,
hard. It's
whatever
hard
it
to
is.
practice, and you're not supposed to catch fish, and when you can go catch on stripers and have a good time and smile, man, that's what it's.
I love.
So-
I grew up striper fishing out in
Oh, did you?
California.
Yeah.
That was one
Yeah.
of my favorite fish. I'd chase them in the ocean. We'd go surf fishing, just walk the beaches and stuff for like.
Oh,
miles
really?
and
Oh, that's
miles.
awesome.
Yeah, and cast out and surf. You don't get a lot of them, but the ones you get are usually at least 10 to. My biggest is 28, but in that range, they're fun.
Yeah, we used to jug fish for them in Florida because they'd come down the St. Johns River and go on a little creek called Black's Creek, and we used to jug fish for them. We put jugs out for them at night just for stripers with big shiners, and yeah, dude, it was a pretty good time. So
they're fun. Yeah. They got some big ones here in the South. I haven't hooked up into one of those really big ones yet, but I'm hopefully one of these days.
Go for a sleigh ride with one.
Yeah. They're smart. They're smart fish. Rather catch one of those than a big drum. Those they're dumb, man. They don't.
I've never caught them.
Yeah, they're stupid. They're fun. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like a big giant striper is a lot more intelligent and difficult fish.
I mean,
to catch
I caught
a
38-inch freshwater drum.
That's what I mean. Not drum. I meant like redfish.
Redfish. Oh, redfish. Okay.
Redfish.
Sorry. No, that's a good time. That's a good time.
Yeah. They're fun. They're a fun time. But like I said, the big bull reds, they're not like the smartest of the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was pre-fishing for you guys.
That was pre-fishing. Didn't fish Friday. Wanted to get everything together. And I rode over and checked a couple spots to see how much pressure they were getting. And watch some people, cast at different spots that I had, and it's just it's nerve-wracking. But I love when they cast and then they reel back in and they just shake their head and they paddle on, and I'm just smiling ear to ear. But man, so luckily nobody else found them, man. So it was a blessing. This whole deal worked out for me because of just recent past history. Jim being late, so I find this spot because Jim being late, and then Mike the week before or 2 weeks before I pull off a point because I call him my buddy Mike, and I pull him. Yeah. They come over here to this point and catch these fish. And he says, he's a power fisherman. He doesn't want to put a shaky head. And I said, man, you have no fish. It's 10 o'clock. I said, put a shaky head in your hand and come over here and cast. And he caught, and I pulled off of it because I couldn't coal up. I was catching 14s and 15s and just throwing them back left and right. He catches a 19. And all I could think when I was fishing that little area, I said, I'm going to pull off to somebody and somebody's going to smack them in the head. And I said, I am not leaving it. I'm stuck here all day.
Sticking it out.
Yeah, I did. So
how did the potential? I guess you guys didn't know until when did you figure out that they were canceling the Saturday fishing
The
Was
night
that
before
I
at
Friday?
registration.
Yeah.
So how did that factor into your pre-fishing, like knowing that might be a potential, or did it?
No, we
You
didn't know
just
it was a potential in pre-fishing. I don't think anybody kind of thought of it. Did you think about it was going to be in the and when you were pre-fishing that it could get canceled on Saturday?
I heard about it Friday morning. Somebody mentioned to me at the boat ramp that Vinny started talking about it. So
Yeah.
I kind of at that point I was like, it's probably getting canceled. Because I
Yeah.
saw, like, I watched the Weather Channel and saw some, like, how bad those storms were that were just at the moment, like hitting Arkansas and stuff.
Mhm.
So I had a good idea. For me, I was just gonna fish that area regardless. There was two areas, I had a few different areas, but I knew that one. I was at least the area that I ended up fishing. I knew that I'd at least try that first, and if it didn't work, I did have some stuff to fall back on, but
Yeah.
all went pretty well.
Well, that's awesome. So you ended up getting the day off on Saturday. Did you guys? What did you do with your day off? Just hang out at the house and prep, or?
Well, it's got to start off with Friday night. We all got to have a night to, enjoy ourselves. And I don't ever drink. I drank 6 beers that night. And I had a good time. We were shooting pool at Stump Hole Landing and those people over there. So we stayed with my buddy, Tony Peavy. He was actually my baseball coach in Florida and he's my dad's best friend. And he's got a little camper and he lets us stay every time we come up, but they got the little restaurant right there. And so went in there and hung out and like everybody knows each other in there. It's like a whole family. And they're so, when you walk into a bar, sometimes you worry about who's the grumpy crowd, no, they were high-fiving us when we walked in the door. We were shooting pool. I mean, there was some young kids that, I'm pretty sure they were as high as a kite and they were having a good time. And but they were shooting pool and, I wouldn't let the young guys pay for anything. They were real young and we were picking on their squatted trucks and they were having a good time. And then they left, and then the older crowd come in, and they were. I used to shoot pool for a living when I was out of high school, so they kept calling me hustler, and so the older guys kept coming in, and they would grab a partner, and me and Ben Goad and my buddy Jeremy was there, but Ben likes to shoot too, and so we stayed on the pool table most of the night, but it was a good time. There was some crowd in there that they had a blast. So I met some good people and probably some new friends. And every time we go up, they send us some friend requests and probably go aggravate them. And the food was great. And, they had served breakfast. So we ate breakfast Saturday. I went Saturday and ate breakfast there. And then I drove home and hung out with my daughter, played in the pool and hung out with her because, she hadn't had much daddy time all week and with me going. So I kind of and then I drove back that afternoon.
That's awesome. So you made it useful.
I made it useful, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, that's all. How about you, Russ?
Oh, looks like we lost him.
There you go.
He's back.
Yes.
Hey, Chad, we gotta shoot some pool sometime, man. I grew up next to a pool hall. I played a lot of pool when I was younger.
Oh,
Probably
man.
not.
I'd love to.
I'm a better fisherman than I am pool player. I'm pretty.
Well, I'm no good no more. Honestly, I'm no good no more. Pool is not one of those things you can quit for a long time and then come back. You can hit 1 or 2 balls in and then miss, but used to running 6 and 9 balls was the goal, and now it's like if I can run 2 or 3, I'm ecstatic. But that was the first time. Honestly, that was the first time shooting in like probably 6 years, 5-6 years.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. So
I play maybe 3 or 4. I don't
get
get a lot of opportunities, but I'll play a few times a year. At this point. When
I
was younger, me and my friends.
When I went to the Bassmaster event with Jimmy and a couple other people at Gunnersville, we played a couple rounds of pool, and I lost like 9 or 10 in a row. So you don't want if you want to take somebody's money.
That was the thing is we just had a good time. I didn't care, if we won or lost, man. We were just having a ball, man. A couple times they were close to winning and they would screw up and knock the 8-ball in, and they would just so funny. Well, I almost had you. We had a good time. So my wife, I'm generally home every night, for dinner. So this was like, me being selfish this whole week and just doing my own thing, and it was pretty awesome of her letting me do that. So, so that.
It sounds like the whole weekend with the win and the good time. You got to have a day off and all.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Good experience you'll never forget, I'm sure.
Did you take it easy on Saturday, Russ? Or
I did, yeah. What I just rigged up a bunch of tackle. I was thinking about going fishing. Like I said, it was a good day. It was pre-frontal, and I was like, man, maybe if we go a little farther east, and that storm didn't look like it was coming till later. So we're
Yeah.
thinking about doing some fishing, or even going out towards the coast. It wasn't too far from Charleston,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I ended up just trying to catch up on rest a little bit, and I worked on a
Yeah.
bunch of tackle, got my truck cleaned up. And we actually went out to dinner for it was Garrett Wade's birthday, so there was a group of about 10 of us or so. And we went to the Mill
Yeah,
Street Grill,
yeah.
I believe is the name of it. And yeah, had a nice little dinner, celebrated his birthday. He was there with his family, with his wife and two kids. So
Yeah, that's
um,
awesome.
yeah, so that was really
I
cool to
mean, you
be able to. Like I
probably
said,
needed a good day of rest after being on the
I'm
road and stuff. And
exhausted, man. And so after the
shit.
tournament, I drove all through the night and didn't get back until 5:30 in the morning, and kind of paid the price yesterday. I was not feeling so hot. Just bad headache, felt nauseous, and I don't know. So I finally caught up on sleep though. I'm feeling better today, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Take you a couple
going.
more
Yeah,
naps and
yeah, it can.
get
Yeah, it'll
rehydrated.
wear you down. I'm telling you, doing all the tournaments and just traveling, and if you don't get those rest days in between, it'll catch up on you.
Yeah, like I don't know how y'all do it. Like, I mean, it whooped me, and I mean, I got nothing accomplished at work yesterday and today. Like, I laid on my couch today, going. I tried to take a nap, but it just the business phone, man, it don't stop. So so.
Yeah, I hear
Um,
you.
but I try. I try.
Coming back from like a something like that, you got all kinds of business to catch up on, and
Yeah, yeah.
everybody's
Especially being a business owner too.
And you
It's
did,
all
yeah,
being.
done another podcast too. You've been busy with podcasts and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
You
Ryan
got a
Lambert.
lot going on.
I might as well eat it up because somebody told me you need to do it. And I'm like,
yeah.
yeah. I said, but I'm only good as the next tournament. So I said, I might as well eat it up. So might as well take what I can get, buddy. So hopefully it'll be some more tournaments. We'll see. I put the work in. I always believe that nobody's going to outwork me. So, and that's one of those things. So I'm going to learn. I'm going to study. You know, fish behaviors to seasons to I get into it pretty deep and knowing trying to learn water temperatures and different stuff and focus on a lot of that. So, but I got some good reports on Hartwell that it's on fire right now. So
Is it?
it's
Yeah.
That'll
it,
be awesome.
it's
I
gonna be
can't wait to cover that event.
yeah it's gonna be. You coming to that one?
I
I don't think I'll be able to make it to that one. We got some local. I run a local club that I gotta. That's kind of my priority, I guess, for most of the season is
Where's
Well,
your
that
next
was
tournament at?
what.
our next one's on Center Hill, April
Okay,
15th. Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Well,
that'll be
Vinny
exciting.
works. Vinny works hard for his anglers. He doesn't overlap. He tries not to overlap, and like he brought this one, he brought this next one down for us, and he's putting the South event involved in it, and with one of his clubs. And I have to talk with him about, he doesn't want me to beat my motor, but I need my motor on this one because I got to beat a lot of people some places. So, so I got to get on it, buddy. So.
Gonna have to start doing some cycling or something
Yeah,
beforehand.
no, you're not going to beat a motor. I mean, I can get almost 7 miles out of my Hobie when I get it up when I get that Torpedo 1103 all the way up.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
crazy for how big of a boat that is. How fast you can get it up to.
get it up, yes sir. So your dad be in the boat business. I tinker with that height of that thing. Now I can't. Once I go slow, it's put the pedals down. But when I got it jacked all the way up as far as it'll go, it's not something that you can just putt around in because you'll splash water and make noise. But when you squat that back in, you can really get it going.
Huh.
So,
That's good to know.
yeah.
Well, let's start talking about your the day that how the fishing turned out for the event. I
The
guess
the
Russ
fish. You want to go? You want to go first, Russ?
or
Sure. Let's see. So, like I said, that area that I had, there was lots of different types of water. Some areas were kind of more heavily forested, some were more open. And I was originally planning on starting the area on this one little shallow area that I knew I can get like a quick limit at, but they were all like 13 to 18, maybe at best 18 inches
yeah.
probably. So I was on my way there, and it kind of last like split second. I'm like, no, I'm like, screw that. I'm gonna try to get a. I'm not gonna play it safe. Play it
Yeah.
safe. I'm gonna.
I mean, maybe if it was a 2-day event, that would have been a
Yeah,
better
yeah,
move.
I think so. That's how I started it last year, and it worked out well. I filled my limit quick, and I went there, and there was smaller size fish there, and I felt like I can just get a good idea of how active they are or what they wanted to eat, and just sometimes just knowing that like right off the bat, and at least getting a few bites just to see how they're reacting to lures can kind of
Yeah.
be a good piece of information. But kind of last minute, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna start over here instead. And the two other kayakers, and a lot of it was because I saw the two other kayakers go into that area that I knew had. That's actually where I got that 121-inch fish that I shook off.
Mhm.
Where I saw two of the kayakers. It was a pretty good size area, but I was like, I better start over there first. Otherwise, they're gonna hit everything before. I want to at
Yeah.
least get a chance to get some of that to myself and get a few
So
casts
what
on
kind of
some
stuff
fresh
was in
trees.
that area? Like what kind of
Just more
all
ice. There was
mussels?
some grass patches, some little reed clumps, and some cypress trees. Not as many cypress trees. It's more a little more open area, and
Yeah.
had some isolated cypress trees. And then kind of on the outskirts of it, really where I started in that open area, and didn't get anything for about 15 minutes, and then I worked right when I worked to the edge of it, where it started getting a little bit thicker forested areas.
Mhm.
There, yeah, I got three fish, pretty much bam, bam, bam. It was a 18 and a half or so, 20 and three quarter or 21 right at that. And then 22 and a half. I got all three of them on a gilly using my Rus Snyders sniper. And I've been
The
liking
bigger
that.
gilly, the 130 size or
The 110, the medium
the
size
medium
one.
one? Yeah.
Yeah, originally
Yeah.
that rod, is designed for doing more like long casts on grass flats with like a chatterbait or like a swing head or like bombing cast with a top water, and wasn't really designed for shorter casts around cypress trees. But that gilly is like one of the few things that it really balances nice, and
Yeah.
I could still fish as a light enough tip that loads up. Because that's the thing when you're fishing those cypress trees, like accurate casts, man, or everything, accurate
Mhm.
quiet casts, and just being quiet and stealthy in your kayak and getting the right angles and the right, the better you can do at that. And I love that style of fishing. That's where I do best at. Like I said, if I'm sitting there video game fishing or doing live scope, I'm not gonna. I mean, most likely not gonna do well in tournaments doing
Yeah.
that. Not that I've done a few, done a few tournaments. I've fished that way and done all right, but yeah, if I can anything where targets are visible, you can see the ambush points, and it's all about just getting it being as efficient as possible with accurate, quiet casts and having the
Yeah.
right presentation. And yeah, they
How
were
how
liking that.
how
Huh?
do you rig that 110 gilly? Just with the EWG hook, or you have
I
some
don't know
kind
if
of
I want
special?
to. I don't. My buddy told me, so I don't want to say, yeah, how I do
Okay.
it, because I don't want, yeah, him getting upset. But I bet you could find there's videos of stuff,
Yeah.
of doing it that way. So, um, but yeah, so like I said, it's on a 17-pound test with my Snyder sniper rod, and yeah, I got
That's
three
awesome.
fish kind of right off the bat, and after that, it was kind of a little. After that, it was just kind of one here, one there. I started rotating some other lures in there. Started making some casts with a bigger swim bait with the Bass Mafia Zal Dangerous swim bait.
Mhm.
Caught one on a big swim bait, and missed a couple bites. Then I started rotating the swim jig in, black and blue swim jig, and I started going more in kind of like the heavily like forested areas that had less light in it.
Yeah.
It seemed to be like the areas that were like the isolated trees that were had sun all the way around. Kind of stopped playing,
Mm.
and there wasn't much wind. That there was a little bit of wind, but and the areas where I was, it was pretty minimal. So I started getting areas with more shade and stuff, and
Yeah.
just working through that swim jig through some areas.
What
And
kind of water temperatures and stuff did you guys have this stuff?
63 to 70 is what I'd,
Okay.
I'd see throughout the week. Is that about what
So
you saw, Chad?
I saw some warmer temperature, but I was in a lot cooler. I was in 61.
Oh, 61. So you're like Maine River. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else happened? And
So most of the fish that you were targeting, what kind of stages do you think they were in?
post spawn for
Post
me,
spawn.
I'd say the
Wow.
majority of them were post spawn. There might have been a couple of those might have been bedfish. And there was some bedfish around, but just by looking at them, most of them were kind of skinny, and kept going. And then I fished pretty clean all day, and like losing fish is definitely like part of it. Like you're gonna lose fish. You can't. It's not. You can't make excuses or say, oh, coulda, woulda, shoulda, whatever. But I did have quite a dramatic fish loss with.
Did you put the fish up on the video yet?
No, I'm gonna get. That's the next thing I'm doing, because I gotta send.
I want to see it.
I would do too. I might do a video. This might be a good one just to put all my fish, because I had some good fish catches on there, and I videotaped just about all of my tournaments, unless it's like raining really hard or something.
Yeah.
So I got the video footage more just to have in case there's any question about anything. Is probably the main reason I do it, and I don't like giving up too much, all the time. So I don't.
Well, that's what
post. Yeah, but in this case, I already said like what. Yeah, and it comes back. It'll come back to bite you. You go back there, and there'll be a bunch of people in your area. But I think I could get away with
what you were doing.
Showing. Yeah, I think I already told her what I'm throwing. And like I said, I'm going to send some of the video to Matt Newman for the iRod. He's going to help make some reels and stuff, and just some of the fish catches using my rod there. So since those are going to be out there anyways, I might put like a little YouTube or something video together. I had some good ones, but the one I lost, 4 minutes left. It was giant. It was skinny though. It was post spawn, and had it on for a while, and got close, and it came off. At first I was like angry for about a second, and just kind of fell down, and I actually just started laughing. I think just because like given the circumstance, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like 4 minutes left, and it's like
just like rub it in your face.
It was kind of funny, but
you don't,
I was
do you
happy
use it? You don't use a net, do you?
I don't. No, I wouldn't have got it even if I had a net.
You don't think so? No.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I know so. I wouldn't. It wasn't close enough.
I saw a picture of somebody from there that had a fish in his net that the lure was coming out of its mouth in the mid picture with the fish like going into
Really?
his net.
That'd be a good one.
Like, man,
this one
one of those
should be
times
good.
when it.
Yeah. This one was all in frame. I had another good one too on a swim jig where I set the hook, and it ran straight back behind me to my left. And usually I'll try to just like pull them back, but after it went back behind me, then it cut straight back behind the motor the whole opposite way.
God.
And I was able to hit the free spool for a second, lift my rod. I set the hook, and I lift my rod. It went straight back. I lift my rod over my rods, and the thing in like less than 5 seconds does a whole 360 around my boat. I've never done that before.
He must have been caught a couple times.
Oh my god, there are some good ones, man. So I think I gotta put up the footage. It'll be some good stuff out there. So
dude, just listening to him you listen to you get excited about catching fish. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like I got on stage and I catching those fish. I mean that's a blast to me. Like
that's what it's all about. That's what I'm having fun. I mean I want to do as good as I could, and I'm not even. I don't know. I'm competitive, but more just kind of competitive with myself. Like when you beat me or somebody beats me, like and they earn it, and I'm happy for them. I'm definitely not a sore loser, and I definitely don't mind losing. I just want to try to do the best that I can do, and I'll more get mad. I'm not get mad at myself maybe if I don't.
So you
make bad.
You analyze your day. I beat myself up pretty bad, knowing what I could have done better. So I'm mad about that. And I guess it's the only way we get better and want to get better, because nobody's going to be harder on me than me.
Yep. I feel the same way. And it's not about, I should want to beat this person or beat this, or about, I don't know. It's just more about, I just want to be the best that I can be at this. And if I feel like I didn't do a good job of that, or I made mistakes, I'll get frustrated, but like just always use it to learn for next time. And the more you keep doing that, the better, you'll get it. At everything, whether it's the mechanics of casting or making decisions based on how much time you spend in a certain place, or controlling your emotions when you lose a big fish or something like that. All those things are things that better you can get at those things, the better results you're going to have.
Yeah, I mean that just speaks to, they always say it's time on the water, and that's all it's going to take pretty much.
Yeah,
get
it's using that
after
time
it.
wisely to
Yeah.
critique yourself and criticize yourself of of just having an intent of always just trying to learn and try to get better at things.
Yeah. That's what I've been trying to do since I got back from Chick. I'm just every week, every day I go out, I'll try to do something new or try to push myself to basically challenge myself to do some kind of new technique or learn.
Yeah, totally.
Basically, I'm trying to learn how to fish offshore more than beat the
Gotta
bank like I typically do.
you gotta leave all your other
Me and
rods.
you both.
Yeah.
You gotta get rid of all your rods except for your deep stuff, and then you go do it with deep because it's too hard to grab that rod and want to go back.
It's so tempting.
Yep. You just
Mhm.
can't leave it. Man, you just got to leave it at the house and go out there with one rod and fish that one rod. I know they may not be biting that day, but that's what I have to do because I got ADHD. I mean, I'm over here
Yeah.
5 rods, and casting, in a day. So when I want to learn something, I got to take it out of my hands to want to be able to change. So, and just stick it in my hand and fish it. So
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, Chad, talk about your day. How did it go for you? I mean,
well,
obviously it went well, but
I got there. I knew I needed to get there before everybody else. There was one other kayaker got there before me, and he wasn't sitting in his kayak. And I sat in my kayak and I blocked pretty much so I could get out the gate faster than everybody else. And
yeah.
so I paddle over my spot and get there and sit down. And that's like the biggest relief is knowing that nobody's sitting. Like Rus handled it like a champ. He had several spots right where he was at. Well, I knew where I wanted to start. And so I'm thinking, all the worst case scenarios because I overanalyze everything. Like, so if you think I slept much Friday night, you've lost maybe 2 hours. So I get out there and I'm casting for about 2 hours and I'm trying to pay attention and I found that they moved on me. And so when I moved, I found them and I it's 9 o'clock before my first fish, and then I started catching them.
So
And
how did the area that you were fishing, how did that set up? Like what kind of
I was more
vegetation or structure were you fishing around?
moving water. I mean,
Okay.
I was river fishing, so I'm but they moved up really shallow on me,
Hmm.
and that they were on the ledges on Wednesday, and they moved up really shallow. So I was fishing and throwing and when they moved when I went up shallow, started fishing up shallow. I got hit and caught it and the boat traffic is just, and then they were sitting around me, they were hanging out, they were I had a flotilla with me by the end of the day. They were coming through. I had the total opposite experiences of what Christina had. Either it's current or ditches. Fishing ditches at Santee. People don't know that from 3 foot to 4 foot or 5 foot is a ditch, and they'll set up in it. I was
Yeah,
catching, it's kind of I was a pre-spawn spot where
I
they were
got
coming,
you.
and going. So I caught pre-spawn and post-spawn
Yeah, I
fish.
was looking at some of your fish and it looked like a lot of them were a little fatter and
Yeah,
kind of had a little
yeah.
bigger belly on them than what some
That
of Russ's
had
fish
a lot
had.
to do with the water temperature too. Fishing that and so and I was throwing a jackhammer, and
Hmm.
like I said, when Larry, I was fishing several jackhammers, and when Larry threw in and called, I asked him before the tournament, and I shouldn't have asked him, and I was probably in the wrong. I said, "Man, what trailer?" He says, "I hate to tell you, but you let me catch that big fish before a tournament." And he showed me, and I mean, like I said, I won't tell y'all what it is because I respect him because that's what he likes to
Yeah.
do. And I caught every fish with that trailer on it. But I had to do something different that I've never really done with a jackhammer. I had to suck it to the bottom. I didn't think you could run a jackhammer. I honestly wonder if I had a jig, a football jig or something like that, that if I would have reeled
Yeah.
it, I probably could have caught them the same way as I did with the jackhammer because
Huh.
it was that slow.
Just like reeling it
Oh,
down
dude,
on the
I mean, at
bottom
six
like
eight,
as slow as
six
you
eight,
can.
and I was doing this.
That's
Like,
like
But
what
this
that's what
blade's
Ewing
still
was
thumping,
doing
right?
too. To
is
win
that
the
what?
Harris chain event, that's what Ewing was doing too. It made all the
Oh, was it?
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
Huh.
Jordan Marshall
Yeah, I
was
remember
fishing
him
next
saying
to
that,
him,
but
and
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah. I mean,
fishing it too
it was
fast, and he was
painful.
just crawling it.
Yeah.
So you've kind of fishing it like a wobblehead or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, exactly, like a wobblehead. Keeping it, making sure you keep bottom contact. And there was there was a stump over there that I had to hit, and it would come around it, and the fish were just they were stacked, and I could see them on the live scope, in perspective mode. You see the top half, and once it gets a little bit deeper, they disappear. But no
Yep.
one there, and so then at the end of the day, they quit hitting the jackhammer, and I lost probably 7 jackhammers that day. So
Yeah, if you're
uh,
saying around the stump, I was like,
yeah,
my
yeah,
first thought is like, God, I would lose like half of
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
jackhammers
I
doing
did,
that.
and so then I changed to a spinnerbait, and I love spinnerbait fishing. I think
Yeah.
I love it more than a jackhammer. If I could put it, if I, I've really put a lot of time this last year learning the spinnerbait. So when I was fishing the spinnerbait,
What brand do you like? What spinnerbait do you like?
well, that was the True South, and then there was one, and here you go. You like this? I've seen a picture of one in the bottom of Cody Milton's boat.
That's
Hold
the
on.
one.
From
Don't
3
talk
years
about
ago,
that.
that I use. So let's just leave it at that. How about that?
Okay, because it's the same one I use.
That's
I've been
awesome.
making some of my own too. So I'm like, oh, no,
Let's just leave it at that. Y'all want to go do some research? Y'all do your research. But I think there's a lot in the details. So a lot in the details.
That's
I had
funny.
and so then when I changed to the spinnerbait, I caught a good sized one, and then I had one, and I switched back to the jackhammer. Once I caught a few on the spinnerbait, and I had one at the boat because it was at 11:30. I think I caught my last schoolable fish until 2. 2:01 I think is when I took the picture of the last one of the day. But there was one in between it. I don't know, Russ. Have you ever seen you probably have because you've been in it long enough. The underwater head wobble. You know what kind of fish that is when they're under the water and they do the head wobble. And I've
Oh, the
seen
drum?
no, this was a bass.
What do you mean an underwater head wobble?
You know how they
Like
come up at the top?
crashing
Oh,
underwater.
Have you ever
okay.
seen them under the
Yeah,
water
yeah.
do it? That's
Yeah.
every time they've done it with me, it's been a big fish.
Yeah.
And when she wobbled and when she realized she couldn't get a hold of it, she dove down. And I tried to stop her because she was going to a brush pile. I tried to stop her, and I put my thumb on the spool, and it blew that 14-pound test like
Oh my gosh.
But that's one of those things, like that first fish of the day. I mean, it was flopping everywhere, and I daggum looked like an idiot out there trying to get it in my net, and it shouldn't have got in the net. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it shouldn't have got in the net because it was flopping. I done hit it in the head 3 times, and I'm like, you idiot, here I am. Oh, you didn't get it in the net. So then the last one of the day was actually I lost that spinnerbait, and so I tied on a good buddy of mine, John Martin. He's owner of True South Custom Lures, and he makes some heck of jigs, and he makes some really light. His live wire spinnerbaits are really light wire spinnerbaits. You got to check it out. They're really good. I had some of his bigger spinnerbaits, and I took and threw out there, and I stuck it, and it was really the only fish that came out the water all day and was shaking her head, and trying to get off. And I had 3 boats sitting beside me, and they're hooping and hollering, and I'm yelling, get down, and my rod tips in the water, and I'm trying to get her back down, and she's just dancing across the top of the water. I get her in the boat, and I yelled, and it was like, and I don't think nobody understood. They thought I was just happy about the fish. I knew that fish was special. I just didn't know how special at the time. And it was a big relief to get that fish. I think it was a 21 or 20 something. I mean, it was
Cool.
it was healthy too. It was a fat fish. She was
awesome.
pre-spawn. So, and so that gave me the notch to knock the champ off the podium. So, so that was pretty good. So it was just a blast. I mean, the day was a blast. I mean, everybody was so respectful to me. So it was really cool. So,
So were you catching all these fish off of one stump, or did you have like a
no,
couple,
it was
like a
several
milk
others.
run that you
But
set
for
up?
some reason, I'd go back to that stump and I'd get hit or something, and so I was doing circles over, pretty good size area back and forth and working an area. So, but that's just where they were setting up. So, it's just I don't know why that one stump would hit me, and I'd hit it, and if I could bounce off of it, I'd get hit. But if you're trying to bounce a jackhammer off of a stump, it's not
It's not
not a
gonna
win.
end well most of the time.
No, it's not. I mean, you break it off and get another one. So
Yeah.
so, but it was. But even the spinner bait, I had to drag the bottom with. I lost, like I said, I lost that spinner bait, and I lost another spinner, two more spinner baits, on that same area. So so it was a day for me. But luckily, I did miss that fish between the 11. I missed two fish in there. The other one, I think he come out and danced after he got unhooked, so he was about 16. So, but those two fish were actually really key fish for me because it made me stay. If
Yeah.
you don't get a bite from 11:30 to in an area until 2, you're probably not going to stay. But those two bites and those two missed fish gave me the confidence to stay. I mean, if I don't get those hits and if I don't lose that fish, I don't stay.
One little thing can change your day so easily.
Yes,
It's crazy.
yes. So even losing that fish, and that was probably one of the biggest fish that, it probably wasn't nothing like you lost, because if you say it's a big fish, it's a big fish. If I say it's a big fish, I'm so excited. It could be like a 19-incher, and I'm like, it's huge, it's huge.
Like an Ellie out there.
But yeah, so it was that, and then like I said, me moving off that point and thinking the whole day of Mike catching that 19. He ended up in second place in that Murray tournament, and I ended up in 12th or 8th. I ended up in 8th, and he ended up in second. And I was like, I'm not moving, because people kept coming by the area, and then there was two kayaks. They kept coming. They were creeping, and they were very respectful. They didn't cast in my area, but they wanted to know what I was doing. I mean, they were paying attention. And then I had one other guy. He come around the corner, and I cast. I almost hit him because I didn't see him come around the corner. And then I pretty much said, "Here's my bait. Look at it as it falls in front of you." I'm not sure.
Here, check this thing out.
It was a blue Hobie. I'm not sure exactly who it is, but I got a suspicion who it was. And I look back after they get behind me, and they're reaching in their thing, and they're tying it on there. And then they start calling, like, I'm an idiot. God, if I'd have known he wasn't there. And I'm like, he's just about to beat me with my own bait, because I'm not like you guys. I'm a rookie at all this. So it was a good time. Then I got to hang out with Rus, and Rus is the best comment of the day was, when we were at the Queen City. He beat me at Queen City. So that means, Queen City means a lot to me. Like, they have, Vinny runs a heck of a show, and it means a lot. I want Angler of the Year there. I missed third. I was fourth Angler of the Year last year. I missed third because by 1 point I pulled off a spot to help my buddy Mike. I was on fish at Santee, actually. They were schooling. And I pulled off the fish and let him have them, so he could get into the TOC. He needed a good finish, and that cost me jumping down to third. But I wouldn't change that dropping down to fourth. I wouldn't change that for the world. So I'm sitting in third, and I wanted to win in TOC and Queen City, because it's tough. Memorial Day shootouts are tough to win, and Rus knocks me off. But he looks at me, he says, "You got me in the Hobie, didn't you?" And I said, "I don't know."
Well, given what you had, because I kind of figured out my big fish was 22 and a half. And I think, what was your big one? 21 and change?
21 something. I'm not.
So in order to be tied with me, like, I figure, I'm like, you got to have all solid fish if your kicker isn't that big. Because all mine were my smallest was 18 3/4.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all he has to do is like, I'm like, his fifth one's got to be at 18 3/4. Like, his big one is 21, and he's tied with me. I'm like, he's got me.
And then
I was happy for you, though.
So I said it on the other one. Vinny was a class act, because I called him, and I said, and on Thursday, I was talking to him when I was practicing with Mike. I got done practicing with Mike, and I called him, and for some reason, I don't know why I called him at the right time. Like, things work out. I don't know what it is. Somebody told me when it's your time, it's your time. But I believe that wholeheartedly, because things work out like they're supposed to. So I called Vinny, and he said something to Matt Sandoval, because I think that's who he said he was. It was behind him. I said, he said something about moving, and I was like, "Don't go there, Vinny." I said, "Don't go there." And he says, "Go where?" And I said, "Just don't go there." And he said, "The ramp." And I'm like, "Yeah, don't go there." He says, "Okay, I won't go there." And at the end of the day, on the way to the weigh-in, he calls me and he says, "You on?" because I had no service. I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't have no service. I didn't sandbag on you, Russ, by no means.
Oh no,
So I took off, man. I didn't check the leaderboard. I didn't know where I stood or anything, because I didn't know that 103 was even going to be close in contention, because by the time I left, I loaded up. A buddy of mine, Dustin Huggs, was grabbing stuff. He stopped putting his stuff away, and come over there and started throwing my stuff. So I took a long ride back to Stump Hole Landing, and got over there, and the restaurant was closed. So I had to bang on the door, man. Because they were in there cleaning. Luckily, they were in there cleaning, because I didn't have no service. And so
trying to get their Wi-Fi or something.
Yeah, so they come to the back door, and I got the Wi-Fi and a pin, so I'm writing everything down and getting in. Don't double up on the fish, and I called Blaine. I said, Blaine, man, because he's the Queen City. He was the one that doing director, because Vinny does, if he fishes, he won't look at the pictures. He won't even look at the monthlies, because he doesn't think it's fair if he's looking at the monthlies and somebody's on that lake. He won't even look at the monthlies. So it's pretty awesome. Like, he takes a lot of pride in not scalping people's stuff, And so I called Blaine, and I was like, I said, man, can you check my pictures? He says, yeah, everything's good. I gotta let you go. I can't talk right now. Bye. Click. Like, he wouldn't talk to me. Like, you can know. And then now the nerves are shooting through the roof. Like, I knew I was close, So then I'm on the way, and Vinny calls me. He said, you catch him? I said, yeah. I said, did you catch him? And he said, yeah. And I said, what'd you have? He said, no, what'd you have? No, what'd you have? He said, 101 or something. And he says, I said, I caught 103, and you could hear the wind just go out of him. Like, because he was trying to get the TOC. He wanted top 3. It means a lot to him. Like, me, this was a blessing. This was an extra, because I maybe when my daughter gets a little older, I'll put a lot of stock in these national events. And, so right now I have to put my stock in Queen City, because, I just can't, I don't have the time, to be able to go and do that, because I choose being a father. Yes, I choose being a father over, the traveling stuff, and trying to be a good dad and a good family man. So, it let the sales out of him. He said, I think you knocked me out of 3rd place, so, and so I was like, and now I feel bummed, because I care about my friends. I'll do anything in the world for them. If you want my shirt, I'll give it to you, buddy, even if it was my last one. So, so I go to, I get to the weigh-in, and then whenever we're on the stage with him, he nudges the guy that was after the guy that was beside him, because the 5th person went, and he nudged the guy that was going to be that was 4th, and he says, did you Cole? And he says, no. And then Vinny looks at me, and he says, I'm in. And his eyes just started welling up. And so it was really cool. So the whole experience for me for this win was pretty amazing. With everybody's, I didn't have a single, bad experience with anybody. I mean, it was a blessing. So it was a fun experience, I guess you could say. That's why when I told Russ and AJ on the stage, and they said something about winning, I didn't even care at that point. I mean, I'm at 2nd place. I'm standing next to a hammer. I'm in Hobie. I'm 187 feet. So at that point, it was 2 of us. So I beat 185 people out of this. I mean, that's at the end of the day.
It's not just like anybody, like just run of the mill people either.
No,
It's
these are some daggum hammers. And one day shootout, like anybody can hammer it. I feel like I could have caught fish 2 days in a row where I was at, and they were there because they were still coming in the afternoon, and they were there on Wednesday. So, and they were there on Friday because my buddy, he rode over.
How many keepers did you catch throughout the whole day, you think?
Ooh, probably 9, 10.
Okay.
Yeah, so
good
right.
Yeah, I had a bunch of actually, my smallest fish, I want to say was 18.
Wow.
That's
yeah,
good ones.
Yeah.
I'm like, to get 5 over 20, I'm like, dude, you go through like 20, 25, because sometimes if that's the case, you got to go through 25 fish to get 5 good ones. But that's
I got
impressive.
all the females. That's all it was. I didn't catch not a single bug bass. They were all females. So. It was pretty impressive what they were coming. They were either beat up or their belly was swole up. So
yeah.
So
wow.
It was
all meet up back in the same spot.
Do what? Yeah,
like the post spawn and pre spawn ones all are in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's common. You'll see that happen. Yeah, there's a good area for them to stage
Well,
back
that's
and
what
forth.
my
between
buddy
small and
Rodney
flat.
Tapp is. My buddy Rodney Tapp, I called him afterwards, and his dad is Ronnie Tapp. He passed away years ago, but he was sponsored in the '80s, I think, by Red Man. He was a hammer on Hartwell, and he was a great fisherman. I think he helped. He was a big deep water cranker. I mean, Rodney's dragging. He had his son, which is Rodney, which is my buddy, in the back of his boat dragging a chain across Hartwell before they had graphs finding rock veins with a chain and a rope feeling the bottom. The old school, and he called me. He said, "Man, I'm proud of you. You put something in your hand and you kept it in your hand and you fished it and you didn't change." Because I'm an 88. I bounce around. I did try a few other things, but I didn't put a lot of stock in it. I tried the shaky head. I tried a swim bait, a few other things, but that's jerk bait and a couple other things, and they didn't want it. It had to been moving slow on the bottom. So yeah,
I think like another lure I was thinking of when you just mentioned that was like a swing head or something like that. Do you think
I've never fished one, so I couldn't tell you if that would have worked. So I don't know enough about it. So if you see this bait room, right? Like I've bought all kind of baits and tried a bunch of stuff, and half of it, and then the crankbait and the treble hook wall, and half of it will never get used. You got to. I learned that when I was learning, it was a curve of wanting to learn everything, and then it levels out to owning what you learn, owning your key baits, and like you hear Russ talking about swim bait all the time. A swim jig or swim bait. He's owning that bait, and so
it's definitely the things that kind of become your staples, or the things, whether it's your favorite crankbaits, your favorite jigs, your favorite soft plastics. Like, these are the baits I flip. These are the bait. I might have 30 different baits that I can use for flipping, but after time you kind of mess with a bunch of different ones, and you say, all right, well, these are the 5 or 6 that I really end up
I usually end up leaning towards stuff that's like the most versatile.
It'll cover different. Sometimes you want more, just different actions on this. Sometimes you want a quick little flutter. Sometimes you just want like a beaver bait that's gliding. Sometimes, whatever the case, it's like there's a lot of ones that are very similar, but once you find the one that you like to kind of fit that application, then those other ones just kind of sit on the wall.
Well, that's what I think. Yeah, you're right, because what's happening now is I'm coming into me, if that makes sense. I'm coming into exactly what I want to do when I go fishing, and it's confidence. Like, I mean, anybody can catch a bait on anything you throw it enough, right? If you got confidence in something, then you can't beat a man with confidence in a bait. You just can't. If he's confident that he's going to catch fish on that bait, majority of the time, if he puts it in his hand, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
that's what I feel like. I mean, Russ, what do you think would be in this?
Totally. Like a swim, anytime I could throw my swim jig that I like throwing, like if they're eating that, then it's like it's game on. That's always the bite
we're all
that
in trouble, is what you're trying
I'm
to say.
looking for. If they're liking that swim jig and the bigger ones are around, like I can, that's.
I mean, you see it all the time too. Like when you're go up to your buddy or something, and he's catching them on something, and then you try to replicate that. It just doesn't happen.
That's what Benny said. Two people tried to replicate it while he was there, and they couldn't replicate what he was doing. So, he's on something special, and they tried to replicate what he was doing. And I feel like if I fall into trying to fish somebody else's stuff, I might as well throw the tournament out the window. So,
totally.
So
see a lot of people doing that, just trying to fish other people's water or other people's baits or other people. Like, if you don't have an understanding of why something's working or why fish are certain places, like if you're just doing it just because you heard this bait's working or you heard this area is good, like until you understand like why or when to throw that lure or where to throw that lure exactly, or or understand why that area is good and has fish, and what's going to happen if the conditions change and where they're going to move. Those are all the things you really got to learn. You're not going to learn that just from listening to people. You're going to have to learn that from, like I said, time on the water and learning it yourself. And there's always good advice and good stuff it's good to watch. You can learn a lot too from YouTube videos and from other people, but until you kind of apply it yourself, that's when the light will finally kind of click.
Russ, whenever you're trying a new bait, trying to learn something new, do you go find a body of water that you're confident in and there's fish there and you know to catch it? Because that's I try to do. We try to go over to the Murray Honey Hole and if I'm trying to learn something, I take it over there because I know the fish are there. I know it's a lot of fish and I can build confidence in that bait
It's
there.
been
Something to do.
kind of both. Like I used to have kind of like a big pond or whatever. When I was back in California, I remember I'd get new baits and I'd go to that pond because I knew I can catch fish on it, and I'd throw it just to get some confidence and kind of feel out the retrieves and stuff like that. I'd learn new baits that way. Other times, like when I was younger, I would if I wasn't good with crankbaits, I'd literally go out there with only crankbaits, whether it's medium, shallow, only crankbaits and just crankbait fish all day. I've
Yeah.
done that before. And then there's been other techniques, like let's say the Demiki rig, which I've never thrown. And I had a tournament at Dale Hollow, and it was wintertime, and I understood the concept of it and everything. And sometimes just a matter of this is a technique that's like kind of specific to that lake, or like the float and fly, where I'll go out on that lake and learn a new technique that's specifically good for that lake. And then once I learn it, I can kind of go and apply it to other lakes that maybe it's not like known to work at, but still could.
Yeah, well, that was me with the jackhammer this past year is knowing these people that the fish that it catches and trying to learn a different way with it. So Mike, my buddy Mike, he fishes it extremely fast. And then so learning from him and going with him and listen, he's a high water column with that thing, and I had to learn to fish it my way. I couldn't catch what he caught, other than
Yeah.
when you're on Norman and windy bank, then you throw a white one out there and you just reel it as fast as you can because them spots, but when the wind's blowing, but and my buddy Jeremy, he won Angle of the Year 2 years ago, was second last year. He's a hammer, and Russ. He reminds me of you. You met Jeremy,
Yeah.
and he reminds me of you because he's a essential.
Jeremy Heath, right?
Yeah, Jeremy Heath. He's an essential guy. Like he doesn't fish nothing. Like he generally doesn't have electronics on his kayak. I'm like, do you not mark your waypoints? It's nah, it's whatever. And he goes out there. He goes fishing. I mean, he takes a top water bait and a worm and a moving bait, and that's it. And he crushes it. But he's so I've learned a lot from him and I try to dumb down my fishing, because I feel like the days that I told somebody, I said, the day that I'm going to win a big one is when I only fish with 2 rods or 3 rods. And you know what happened? I fished with 2 rods all day. So I caught them on 2 rods all day, and I had 8, with me. So, but I caught them on 2 rods all day, so that's what, like Rodney said. He said, I'm proud of you for keeping it in your hand and working an area out. He says, you always hear these guys talking about covering water. He says, you're in a kayak. There ain't covering water in kayak. You better just hunker down and catch the fish in your area, or find the bigger fish in your area, and go after it. So,
Yeah.
And I've tried to use that a lot more is work an area out. So
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, there may be some times when covering water is maybe more the way to go, but especially I feel like at this time of year, you really gotta hunker down in a spot. If you find fish, you're gonna find all of the fish pretty much
Rush,
in there.
do you try to cover a lot of water, or you try to fish an area out, or you know
Both. Most times I move.
you move
I
a
move
bunch?
pretty fast. I move pretty fast, even when I'm fishing slow, if that makes sense. Like if I'm flipping, the only time I'm really fishing, I'm not dragging worm. I mean, I'm not fishing deep and like dragging worms that much, but I'll flip. I guess when I do slow down, it's like when I'm flipping or yeah, dragging a jig, something around cypress trees maybe. And even with that gilly, I'm not fishing it very fast, but I'm moving around quite a bit and skipping over a lot of lower percentage areas and like really focusing my time making my casts on like the highest
Mhm.
percentage areas as possible. So if somebody saw me, probably I'd be like, you'd see me over here or 1 second, I'm gonna
Well,
be
that's what
fishing
that's what
slow,
my
but then
buddy
I'll
Jim, my
zip
buddy
around
Jim
and
said. My buddy Jim
yeah.
said he said Chad, he said he was like an animal. He said he knew what to throw at and what not to throw at, and it's like here I am casting at every tree, and and casting at every tree and flipping at every stump and flipping at all the grass, and he's over here just crushing me. and it was pretty awesome to see. He
Hitting
was
precise targets. And
well, to get to see somebody fish like that too, it makes you think and reevaluate what you're doing, because I learned from watching, you take me out there, Frankie Wolf, when I was trying to, really get good at the wacky worm at Santee, I sat behind him for 3 weeks straight and let him fish in front of me the whole time. And Rush, he's like you, man. He can catch a fish and you won't even hear it splash. I mean, when he comes into an area, it's so quiet. It's unbelievable how quiet. And he's a big old guy too, and like he's caught a fish and he caught it, not even 30 yards from you, and he's like, he holds the fish up and he puts it in the water. You hear nothing. Even when he gets it out the water, you don't hear this fish making noise. And then he's catching another. He's extremely cautious of his noise.
Ninja fisherman.
So I've learned, that's a quiet. And then when I got live scope 2 years ago, I was fishing at Lake James. I was in probably about 30 foot of water, and one of the members, Queen City, come up behind me, and I'm watching this fish come to my lure, and I'm sitting in 30 foot of water. This fish is probably 20 feet down, and I've got a drop shot, and he yells, "Hey, Chad!" And I watch this fish turn around and dart away.
Is he yelled for you? Yeah.
And this fish is in 20 foot of water. It's nuts. I mean, maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he seen the bait at the same time, but he turned and ran. And I was like, ever since then, people say I'm a little anal about it, but I'm going to keep being anal because I know what I've seen on the live scope.
Don't yell at me on the water. Don't even look at me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but what's crazy is where I was fishing, they were coming through, the boats were coming through, and they were turning down the radios, and I was like, no, turn that thing back up, because they were pushing bait around and those fish were chewing, and I was catching fish in the prop wash. So
seen it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like Odd Defoe or someone won that one tournament in Texas, and he was like telling people to drive through so that they could catch them in their prop wash or whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're kind of getting to the end of the show here. Do you guys got any sponsors or loved ones you guys want to thank?
I just I'll thank my wife, and my friends for putting up with me, because I aggravate on a regular basis. I don't have sponsors, and I am blessed that hopefully I never have to do this with sponsors. I do this for a hobby because I've got a real competitive business, and we do pretty good, and so I do this to get away from all that. And for me, if I took on a sponsor, I don't think I could represent them like they deserve to be represented. Some of these big guys that can do it full time. Like, I'll never be able to do it full time until my daughter gets up in age, and by that time I'm be an old fart, man. I'm not gonna want to be fishing on a ton of tournaments in a kayak, So I'm just gonna enjoy what my wife lets me do and life gives me, and so let these other guys that need the sponsors have them. So. And I'm not good enough yet, so I don't even deserve a sponsor. I've got one win under my belt with Hobie. I've done some other smaller wins, but Rus, I mean, he's the one that deserves sponsors, man. Look at him; he's a hammer.
I mean, you got to take pride in what you've got still, too, man. I mean,
I take a lot of pride in it. Oh man, yeah. I've worked hard.
Smart to put. You got to put your family. You got to put them first, and manage your time. Sponsors do take a lot of time, and
yeah, they do take a lot of time.
When you got business and you got
time that they deserve.
Family, and that's a fair way.
Yeah. So I do it just to kick all y'all's butts. So that's it. I mean, honestly, that's what I do it. Some people do it. I want to beat my buddies. I want to beat Jeremy on his best day. I don't want to beat him when he's not doing well. I want to, if we're out there and I'm catching him, I want to hand him the lure that I'm catching him on, and I want to beat him while he's got the same lure in the hand. That's just what I do. I mean, how do we measure each other up against each other if we don't beat each other? I mean, how are you going to get better if you're not going out with your friends and wanting to kick their butts or kick their teeth in? You know what I mean? You got to hold each other to a high standard. It's the only way to get better. So you go out there and fish and not care to catch any fish, and how you gonna compete when the big guys come into town?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I appreciate you being here, and getting me on here and let me ramble a little bit and kind of pick his brain a little bit, because I pay attention a lot to what everybody says. So
Yeah.
It's just
That's
like
how you get better.
yes, and
Glad to have you
It's the
on.
best. All the best fishermen I know, they do a lot more listening than talking a lot of times.
yeah. That's my wife says there's value in just shutting up and listening, and boy,
Yeah.
I think of that all the time because people
Totally.
there's those details, those small details people let out. So you
Yeah.
know, information or they'll take a
That's part of why I like being on the show. I get to just sit and listen a lot.
yeah.
Totally.
Hopefully, I
Absorb
didn't give out too
information.
much today. So hopefully, I didn't give out
Nah,
today. So, but yeah,
I'll
you'll
be
see.
I'll be in your hole next year at Santee.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, y'all come back next year. You know, it's
Oh
Clarendon
yeah,
County is really
I'm sure one of the trails will make a run through there. I mean,
yeah.
this is 2 consecutive years that there's like been a
I think it's my
well,
favorite lake. I was having a conversation with Cody. I'm like, I couldn't think of one that I like more.
yeah.
Oh, really?
But
Yeah.
Bistineau was pretty cool in that fall, but that's not always. That was, I don't know
The
if that
thing
was a
about
fun one.
Santee is,
I like cypress trees. I love fishing cypress trees.
well, the thing about it is every cast can be a 5-pounder. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody that's not, you know, even if they just want to come for the experience, you know, in one of these tournaments, any cast can be a 5-pounder, and that's what's nuts about Santee. So, you know, it's not like
the quality it produces.
no, it's
all over the lake. It seems like
yeah,
or
it's amazing.
lakes plural. But
Yeah,
like I was
So-
going back and looking at the Bassmaster, the Elite Series from last year out there, and that was insane. Like
uh, 2 years ago, I went where Brandon Polinick was sitting. I was sitting there. I paddled in a tournament. I paddled over there, and I'm about to pull in, and I'm about to sit down on that spot, and a bass boat high school tournament pulls in there, and they won second place out of that spot.
oh
Yeah,
wow.
and dude, it crushed me because I'm sitting there watching them catch these fish on this brush pile and this little cut through, and I'm like, you know, and I paddled 3 miles because Vinny's ramp list, you know, and
Yeah.
so it was like 3 mile, 4 mile paddle, and you know, pedaling, and I get there and get taken. I was like, oh, this was a risk, and it was the lake fish really small because it was cold and windy too. So it's, you know, it's not a lake that you really want to be out in the middle of when it gets windy. So oh yeah, it was tough, man. And then find out you know, my buddy knows them. He said that they were all excited because they were actually throwing a white spinnerbait, man, just consistently throwing a white spinnerbait in this one little area, and it's where Brandon Polinick was sitting, and he there, and you know, so it's pretty cool. And I was like, I sat there and watched these guys catch it, and I sucked that day. I think I caught one fish.
You're just there for the show, it seems like.
I was there for the show, yeah, because I was new. I didn't have backup plans for backup plans. So like now I'm a planner now. I got backup plans for backup plans. So you know, but no, thank you for coming on there. So coming on here and the invite and everything else. And so I appreciate
Well, glad to have you on. Russ, you got I know you got a whole list of sponsors. You want to shout them out?
I'm trying to remember them all. I got 7. Wilderness Systems. I said I've been paddling my Attack 120 for I got about 6 years ago to the day, just a little over 6 years. Thing's been holding up great.
Spending money out of that thing.
I love that kayak. I also got a Recon. It's set up pretty sweet. I got that thing dialed in if I ever do decide to fish deep. Yeah, I got that too, and really love that kayak. Let's see, Torpedo. Both of them are powered by a Torpedo 1103. Just the power of those things to especially work around current and go up rivers and go and just the maneuverability of having, you know, hands-free control of your kayak is really awesome. Dakota lithium batteries, they power my truck. Turn my truck into a little camper. It's got a little fridge. I sleep back there. It powers my Torpedo batteries, powers my fridge, and it's all because of the Torpedo batteries. Or what the main, it's kind of all centered around that. If it wasn't for those, I couldn't do that. It really makes my the fishing trips, cuts the cost quite a bit by doing it how I do it, and sleeping in my truck and pre-cooking all the food. It's a big part to just kind of my strategy of how I like to approach tournaments. And Yak Attack for all the products they make. Black Box, I've been using that parking pole quite a bit this year as well. It's coming really handy. Great for bed fishing. And
I got 2 of those that I set down on either side of me and fish clip to them.
Oh,
to
nice. I gotta check out how you rig that up. I just put mine through the scupper hole, and I know it can, yeah,
same
potentially
difference.
crack it or something, but I've never had a
Yeah.
problem yet.
Yeah.
Um, Catch outdoors. I got the great kayak cart. It's tough as nails. It's been really helpful just getting to and from the boat ramps. With that, Music City Outdoors, they're located in the heart of Nashville, Tennessee, and they have probably close to 8, 9 different kayak brands, including the Wilderness Systems kayaks. So
They
be
got
sure to
tons of inventory right now. They,
Dude, yeah. So get down there. This is the time of year where they should be getting busy and people are going to be buying kayaks, and that weather's warming up. It was a hot, muggy day here in Nashville.
yeah.
So it's like, man, it feels like June already, but it's early April. So, and iRod. Like I said, I got my new Snyder sniper. That's what I was fishing that gilly on all week. Like I said, it's really designed for more cover and water and making longer casts. But I'm starting to find out it's more of a more versatile rod than I ever even considered. It's been really good
What are
for.
what are like the specs on that rod? Like
It's a
what length?
7'5",
Okay.
moderate fast action. So it's not a moderate, not so fast. It's right in between, and it's a medium heavy. It's almost a little on the lighter side of a medium heavy. I mean, it's still medium
Okay.
heavy, but a little leaning towards the lighter side. It's got a nice light tip, which allows you to cast
Yeah.
those smaller lures that are in that 3/8 range. I could throw in as light as a quarter ounce like swim jig with a
Mm,
trailer. So probably the actual weight of it is 3/8, but loads up really nice with a 3/8 to half ounce.
mm.
And it still has enough backbone to get solid hook sets. And the thing I was saying that I didn't really realize, I didn't design it for, but it's been a really good worm rod too for kind of like medium size, either just like a 7-inch like curl tail worm or something like that, or even
Yeah.
7 to 10 inch with like a quarter ounce weight or something, or like the 6-inch Senkos, like the Magnum speed worms and stuff like that, or even even the smaller speed worms too, with a little like 3/16 quarter ounce weight. It's really been a nice rod for that too, which I didn't really expect that.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a versatile rod. Check it out.
Yeah. It
I
sounds
think
like it.
that's all my sponsors. I hope that's all of them.
I'm gonna write them down the next
I
time you
think
come on
I think
and
that was
interview.
6.
Dang it.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I'm like, I think I finally
Not
got all of them.
I mean, you get it eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's awesome,
well, I hope
guys.
you
Well,
get a couple more sponsors that you can, really keep doing
Oh,
this,
that's enough.
dude.
That's
Oh,
enough.
that's
I'm
enough.
telling
That's
you.
enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I said, you want to make sure you can do it. You get too many, and it just gets hard to make everybody happy. With
Happy. I
just
got
the
you. I
amount.
got
They're all happy right now, but I don't do as much social media as I probably should be doing. It's tough
I
though,
mean, you're
but
out here winning these big tournaments. That's part of one of their checklists, at least. That
I'd
you
hope
could.
so, but I'm trying to
Yeah.
do my best, do some social media stuff and some video when I can. And said I had
Yeah.
a power washing business, and I think that's pretty much. I don't know. It's hard. I get a lot of calls from like old customers, and I'm just like, sorry, I got tournaments the next 6 weekends here,
yeah.
but so I've been losing some customers, but the fishing's been fun, so I can't complain.
Yeah. Well, now's the time to take advantage of it and start boosting your social media. You got all this uh,
Yeah, I'll try.
notoriety right now. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a little post here and there. Like I said, I'm trying. I've got so many things just around the house and project, like just things to fix
Yeah.
around here, work on my truck, and get ready for the next tournament here in 4 or 5 days, and try to fit a little exercise. And all I've been doing is sitting in my kayak or either sitting in my kayak fishing or sitting in my truck driving to the next place I'm fishing. So I'm trying to get out and get a little exercise too while I can.
There you go.
I get that. I get that. Well, good having you guys on. I'm glad you
Thank you,
guys
brother.
could make it, and it's awesome hearing your experience from this week.
It's a good
Yeah,
time.
thanks for having us on,
Yes,
Garrett. I
sir.
appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure talking and yeah, chatting it up with you.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll
Absolutely.
see you
Thank you,
guys
brother.
around.
Well, I
Yeah,
hope y'all see me around. We'll see Russ, but I don't. Hopefully, I'm not the one hit wonder. So that's what I keep telling myself. I got some work to do. So
you got some
we got.
momentum. Maybe you get
Yeah,
Hartwell. You get
Yeah,
Hartwell
we got some
next. I
momentum.
bet
Yeah,
you like it there. It sounds like so.
yeah, I like it there.
I'll be rooting for you.
That's both of you guys got Hartwell coming up next, I guess.
Both
Yeah.
of us got yes, sir.
That's
That's the
nice.
big BAS. So the 2-day for BSS for the national event coming through. So
That'll be exciting.
I'm pretty interested in that. I got to decide if I'm going to actually use the motor on day one. So if I use the motor, I can't fish with pennies.
Queen City, right? They're having an event.
They're the non-motor, and I love that rule. I mean, I feel like you put a kayak on it. I mean, if you feel like you put a motor on it, you might as well go to get a bass boat. But if I'm gonna say that I'm just as good as some of these other guys, I've got to, put myself in position with them. So if they're fishing with it, I got to fish with it. So
Makes sense.
So.
I got you.
For the Torpedo 1103, I've got what Rus runs, and that thing's amazing. I've got the rock guard. I beat the snot out of that thing.
The innovative sportsman's rock guard. That thing's crucial.
That rock guard is amazing.
Must buy if you get it.
Oh yeah, dude, you have to see mine. It has paint left on it. It's got dings in it. I mean, chips and all that metal in it. It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I really have beaten the crap out of that 1103, and it's been holding up. The 403s are a little more delicate, still great motor. Those 1103s they're legit.
Yeah, dude. When I say, I beat it up, and because I'll get shallow and that thing will be grinding, and I'll hit stuff with it. And my buddy's like, "You really gonna hit that?" Like, yeah, man. I didn't buy this thing to not use it. So
put it to the test. Put it to the ringer.
Yeah, it's holding up. It's been holding up.
There you go. So
that's awesome, guys.
All right.
Well, start wrapping up the show. I appreciate you guys coming on.
Good job out there.
Good luck at your next event.
You. Congrats to you, Chad. I'm proud of you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Catch you later, guys.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.
All right, guys. Well, that's another good show this week. I'm glad that we could have Chad and Rus on. They're some great guys, and it seems like they're on some great runs right now. It's good talking with them. Coming up next, we got. I'm trying to think what's coming up this weekend. We got Easter weekend, and I don't think there's too many national events that are scheduled for this weekend. But if there are, we'll figure it out. I haven't looked into it, but we'll make sure to hopefully get Jimmy back on too next week. So I'm gonna prod him about getting back together with us. But other than that, we got the Dale Hollow event, the Paddle and Fin Open on Dale Hollow coming up. Get signed up for that. I think we're only a couple more weeks away. I've been seeing some good fish coming out of Dale Hollow right now. Some big smallmouth. I think they're kind of pulling up to smallmouth, maybe spawning or pulling up to spawn right now with this full moon that's coming this week. It'll be the day that this posts, so we got some good stuff coming on Dale Hollow. Water temps are right and water levels right, so get signed up for that, and hopefully that'll be a good event. But that'll do it for us. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.